The other night after I'd put my son down to bed and when I was supposed to be editing a video for you guys, which is why in fact this video is a little bit late, I did something I knew would lead to a bad outcome. I picked up my phone and I got on social media. Now if you're anything like me, you know this never ends well. Cute dog videos, cat videos, dance videos, and before you know it, I'm falling down a deep rabbit hole that really only pulls me farther away from my goal. And this is honestly something that happens all the time. This got me thinking, why am I procrastinating? Am I just inherently lazy? Do I have a personality or certain brain chemistry that just makes me procrastinate more than the average person? Or am I just unmotivated? I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that deals with this issue. In fact, like sometimes just showering, I'm not motivated to do that. Most of the time, I'm definitely not motivated to wash my hair. Maybe that's a mom thing, I don't know. So I wanted to sit down with you and explain, using just one motivational theory, just one, because that's all we have time for, why you and I might struggle with things like motivation from time to time, and why just be more disciplined isn't always the best solution when it comes to implementing a new habit that you've never done before. So let's get into some magic. If you're wondering why my face is a different color than my neck, I put on self-tanner, you guys know the drill. There's recent research to suggest that procrastination in small doses is actually a good thing, for creativity at least. For example, there was this experiment where they put people into 3 camps. The first camp, they gave people access to a few videos from Jimmy Kimmel's mean tweets. If you've never seen the mean tweet Jimmy Kimmel videos before, I'll just put a quick clip up here.
Gwyneth Paltrow just stick to steaming her vagina and shut the up, for sake?
So in the first camp, they were told to watch a few Jimmy Kimmel mean tweets videos, and then they were given a problem to solve. In the second camp, they said, hey, just solve this problem. And in the third camp, they were allowed to procrastinate as much as they wanted with Jimmy Kimmel mean tweet videos. Who do you think actually did the best in solving the problem? Well, it turns out the first camp, the camp that had access to just a few Jimmy Kimmel mean tweet videos, solved the problem the most creatively. So that goes to say that procrastination in small doses isn't necessarily a bad thing. Some of my favorite YouTubers to watch right now to help me procrastinate in small doses are Trixie Mattel and Cody Ko. He's timeless. But how do you really explain my behavior in the scenario where I just freaking get sucked into TikTok and can't get off, even though I know I should be doing something else? So there's this theory called the Temporal theory of motivation, and there's a book on it if you want to read more about it. It's called I don't know, I'll throw it up on the screen, but it's by Pierce Steele. He's a professor. And it turns out there's actually an equation for motivation. It looks like this. This theory suggests that in order to increase your motivation, you need to increase the top 2 variables and decrease the bottom 2 variables. Now the thing is, a lot of these variables, most humans have a lot of control over, except for the impulsivity variable. Impulsivity, it turns out, to a certain extent, is genetic, so we've got our parents to thank for that. Scientists have found that impulsive people generally have lower levels of dopamine in the brain. Should I do my eyebrows? No, I'm too unmotivated. So what can you do to increase dopamine naturally without the use of other chemicals and drugs? Well, you can do the things I already talk about on my channel. You could exercise more, try and have a good diet, get enough sleep. Should I wear my hair down? I haven't washed it in quite a while. Not motivated, not disciplined. You could also try preventing yourself from being in scenarios where you're exposed to triggers that lead to impulsivity. For example, putting your phone away or investing in an app like Freedom, which limits your social media exposure. Or if you've got some kind of a physique goal and maybe snacking is in the way, maybe limiting the amount of snack foods you have around your house, or trying to do things like meal prep more often so that you reach for the meal prep food as opposed to the snack. So, fun fact, you can actually find, I need to wash this. Why is this? You can actually find out how impulsive you are by investing thousands of dollars in a brain scan, or you can just go ahead and take a personality test called the Big 5 model, which measures impulsivity across 3 dimensions. It's $10, I'll link it below. But the big 5 is basically gonna tell you in a group of 100 people, do you fall more or less average, or are you more impulsive than the average or less impulsive than the average human? So what about the other elements of this theory? Well, expectancy is the probability that we believe we will achieve a goal. This one has a lot to do with our own self-esteem and how in control we feel about our own life. So people with higher self-esteem and a internal locus of control, you may have heard that term before, locus of control, they're more likely to be motivated than the next guy. Ways to increase this expectancy variable are doing things like auto-suggestion. Napoleon Hill talks about this in his classic book, Think and Grow Rich, and he says, hey, you know, the Rockefellers of the world and all these rich people, what they do to achieve greatness is they basically just like tell themselves daily how amazing they are. They believe they can achieve these great things.
I'm going to do a terrific show today, and I'm going to help people because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Another way to increase your expectancy is actually make a list of all the things you can control. I know a lot of people tell me that around the holidays specifically, they feel very out of control of their weight and what they can eat. One thing you can do in those scenarios when you're presented with family gatherings or holiday events is make a few dishes and offer them to the rest of the group. Dishes that you know will be healthy, tasty, satisfying, maybe lower in calories, so that you can enjoy with the rest of the group, still feel somewhat in control of the situation and what you're able to eat. But just the act of making a list of all the things you can control can make you more aware of things like, oh, I control my reaction to people that I don't like, or I can control how I react to this particular situation. Those things absolutely will increase your expectancy variable and increase your overall motivation. Now let's talk about value. Value is the reward that you believe you'll get once you reach the goal. So you're more motivated when you believe the value of the reward is higher. This probably explains why a lot of students procrastinate, because they look at certain tests or assignments or essays and they perceive the value to be low. Now, one super woo-woo thing that I'm pretty embarrassed to admit to increase both these top 2 variables that I've done is I've created vision boards. And I would describe vision boards as
essential for helping you manifest the material possessions that you think you need in order to cover up how inadequate you feel deep inside.
Like a board of pictures and words that remind you of what your vision for your life will be like once you achieve a certain goal. One thing I haven't shared on my YouTube channel before, in the last 3 years, I've built a few businesses to a 7-figure run rate from scratch. There was a lot of limiting beliefs and negative self-talk that kept me from, 1, going into business for myself to begin with, but then 2, there was tons of rejection. Maybe even thousands of people rejected me over email, on the phone, to my face, you name it. And so during that time, I had to look at my vision board and be very, very motivated about why is it that I'm doing these hard things now. Everything I put on my 25-year-old vision board ultimately came true. My only regret was not thinking bigger. The strategy of vision boarding, it's kind of woo-woo and it totally might not work for you, but it can't hurt to give it a try. Now, I've already talked about impulsivity, so let's talk about delay. Have you ever heard this idea that when you have a big goal or task, you need to break it down into many small goals? Well, that makes a ton of sense in terms of a motivation perspective, and there's a lot of research that actually backs that up. The shorter the delay to receiving the reward, the higher our motivation will be. This is why in my 13 weight loss tips video, I do recommend setting some type of deadline by which to end your diet. Now, I don't mean set a deadline and just go back to your old ways. I mean just have some kind of a deadline by which you can celebrate the end of your diet and go back to your maintenance calories for a period of time and just take a little bit of a mental break. So always taking your big goals and big tasks and breaking them down into smaller ones and setting a deadline on those smaller ones will increase your motivation. So why was I procrastinating in this common scenario that I go through? Why was I lacking motivation? Why was I lacking discipline? Well, for one, I think with YouTube, my expectancy variable is a lot lower than it normally is because to a certain extent, I'm relatively out of control of, there's a fly, of the YouTube algorithm. The other part of that is that me as a human, I'm just more impulsive. So maybe I need to do better about hiding my phone from myself to keep me from procrastinating the way that I do. So that's it for this video. If you're new here, I make videos on whatever I feel motivated to make a video about. In the past, that's been a little bit of coffee, some vlogs, some weight loss content, recipe videos, you name it. Next, it could be my armpit rash that I talked about in the Starbucks video. Who knows? Share this with a friend who needs a little bit of motivation, and I'll see you in the next video. I love you guys. Bring it in for a hug. See you soon.